everyone. Thank you so much for joining this very, very special Start Me Up panel. I think we are somehow making history here with the first ever LGBTI themed panel at Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival. For those of you dialing in from abroad, Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival is the largest young leader and startup summit. It spans over 5, 6 days in Hong Kong, and we generally get 20,000 delegates and attendees. So we're very happy to be back on track in 2020, this time as a virtual conference. So today, I would like to introduce some of our speakers. And by the way, no one wants to listen to me. I get it. We all are here for the speaker, so I won't monopolize the conversation. So if I may, just quickly introduce, we have Jay from Taiwan. Hi, Jay. Right. We have Tung from Vietnam. We also have Quynh from Vietnam. And lastly, I believe I have Justin from the Philippines. So on that note, why don't we start with Jay? If you don't mind, just quickly introduce yourself. You are very famous in Asia, I know, we all know, but just give us a 60-second intro about yourself if you don't mind.
Famous? I don't think so. I'm just a father of two 4-year-old twin boys, and I'm just trying to keep afloat and alive and get some sleep. But hello, everybody. My name is Jay. I am the founder of GagaOOLALA. I don't know how many people have heard of that, but it's Asia's first LGBT streaming service that is currently global. That means anywhere in this world, you can tune into our over 1,000 movies coming from all over the world, and documentaries, feature films, series, shorts, all available on your fingertips, on your phone, or on your PC. So glad to be here, and thank you, Kenneth.
GagaOOLALA. I mean, I love saying that every time. Next, we have Tung from Vietnam. So, hi, can you introduce yourself for us, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today, and it's very nice to see all of you. My name is Tung, and I'm director of Lighthouse Social Enterprise, and community-based organization working with and led by LGBTIQ community. And I also the LGBT and HIV activist. And Lighthouse also provides the several services and also support for LGBTIQ community in Vietnam. Yeah, so very nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you, Tung. Next, Quynh from UNDP, which, by the way, thank you so much for hosting this panel, because I believe without your support, we would not have made this LGBTI panel happen. So first of all, thank you very much. Second, if you don't mind, introduce a bit about yourself to the audience, please.
Yeah, thank you, Kenneth, for all the great work. So, for your thanks could be go to our college in UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub, not me. So I only joined and sharing the story in Vietnam. So I'm now working as UNDP Vietnam country office and in charge of inclusive innovation and youth activity. So I have engaged in some regional and national projects to support the young entrepreneur in Vietnam. For example, like Youth Collab, or SDG Challenge, or some kind of activity to promoting the fair business among the startup ecosystem here in Vietnam. So great to come here with you and sharing the a story from our activity.
Thank you. And last but not least, Justin, with the beautiful pride flag as his background. Who would have thought of that? So over to you, Justin.
Hi everyone. Hi Kenneth. Happy Pride. I'm Justin. I'm the executive director of Youth Voices Count. It's a regional network for adolescent and youth LGBTIQ. Tung is actually our regional board chairperson, so I'm happy to have Tung here as well. I'm also one of the board members of IDAHOT committee, the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Transphobia Committee. Yep, great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So Well, let's get to the meat of this panel because I think a lot of people will be, very fascinated to hear some of, the answers that or tips or guidance that the four of you will give to any LGBTI individual trying to find his footing, trying to start a new company, trying to find gainful employment, for example. Let's start with Jay, right? You know, GagaOOLALA is, it's a live streaming model. And has COVID-19 actually affected your business for good, for the not so good? If you can change one thing you know, that, a decision that you have made a few months before, are there any you would have changed? Let us know.
Okay, just a very quick sort of background to GagaOOLALA. Actually, the genesis for GagaOOLALA was the Taiwan International Queer Film Festival. And so I work in media here in Taiwan, and I realized that in the traditional media outlets, whether it's in the cinemas or in TV or even online, there was a sort of huge missing sort of like storylines and characters that are LGBT. And so after doing the sort of queer film festival for 3 years, I realized there are even other parts of the world, especially in Southeast Asia and South Asia, where these characters and stories are even less present. And so that's why I decided to do GagaOOLALA, which was launched in January of 2017. So we've come to our like 3.5 years. And specifically to your question of COVID, so last month on May 15th, we officially launched globally, which means that everywhere in this world, people can access. And it's very coincidental that whether fortunately or unfortunately, that COVID hit humanity. But as a result of COVID, so many people were forced to stay home. And as people are forced to stay home, the sort of limited entertainment sources became streaming, watching movies. And depending on what part of the world, because COVID hit different parts of the world at different times, and so people were locked down or quarantined different times. But we benefited from, in general, people staying at home and needing to sort of like access content that they need to really climb out of their boredom or depression or anxiety. And especially for LGBT content, because it might be more readily available in the US or in Europe, but many other parts of the world, this kind of content is really absent. So we were very happy that we were able to provide this service. And we have indeed seen a huge boost in terms of our members and our subscribers, and also the streaming time across all continents, actually. And it's very surprising. In our first week of launch, we had 130 different nationalities sign up for our service. These are some random places, not random, very small places like San Marino, Trinidad, Tobago, places that I never thought would have, that we would be able to sort of like market, but somehow they find out about us. And so we were very fortunate to be able to launch the service and get recognition from the community, as well as people who are interested in LGBT films. As for what's not so good this year, obviously because of COVID, there were so many festivals and so many Pride and actual physical events that got shut down. And so whereas last year I traveled the world once in 2 months, promoting in India, in Bangkok, in Cannes Lion, at Stonewall 50 in New York, and Outfest in Los Angeles. But this year, none of that is happening. So there's definitely a lack of physical sort of face-to-face contact with a lot of potential partners, a lot of distributors, a lot of buyers, a lot of marketers. But fortunately, people are innovative. So we're using services like such as voice over IP, just like this one, to still manage to connect. And I think from this, there's going to be new businesses and new opportunities and new ways to strike alliances digitally. Another question that Kenneth had mentioned is what's not so good that I wish I could have done over again. I think the largest thing that I would want to do over again is when we were designing the user interface for GagaOOLALA. We kind of designed with the framework that most of our user interface language would just be in English and would just be in Mandarin. I wish that we had more foresight 4 years ago when we were building the service to make the user interface more adaptive to sort of having the full sort of site or the full pages be in different languages. So right now we have Thai and Bahasa Indonesian as the subtitles, addition to English and Chinese. But I wish we had created kind of like the whole website so that the menu bar and the synopsis and the descriptions can all be in Indonesian, can be in Bahasa Indonesian, in Thai, possibly in Spanish and Portuguese as we expand and continue to pick up members and subscribers in other parts of the world, and create a platform that is more comfortable and more colocalized for their usage and their tastes and their understanding.
Right, and Vietnamese and Tagalog.
Yes, and Vietnamese and Tagalog.
I'm, speaking of innovation such as this, Jay, it's a great pivot into, asking Tung, because, Tung, with all the great work you do in Vietnam, in terms of, mobilizing resources for social enterprises and essentially giving a home to a lot of LGBT youth, both, spiritually, professionally, and more importantly, personally, right? Do you see case studies where Jay says, talking about technology innovation, using, seamless solutions to pivot during COVID-19 for all the companies and organizations that you support every day? We would love to hear from you. What has changed for you for COVID, and how do you envision the future for Lighthouse going forward?
Thank you very much for the question. I think from yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a meeting between the LGBTIQ leaders in Vietnam under the Bridging the Gaps and Prime projects. We discussed about how we can, how we can join the new normal world for LGBTIQ people in Vietnam, and especially discuss about how what is change in fundraising and also resource mobilization in the new situation of the COVID. I think we are lucky because Vietnam, we have quite short times of the COVID, and now everything is back to normal. So so people have, still faced with some difficulty when they during the COVID time. I think one study case, I think about the service provision through the using technology to provide the services for the community. Before, like most of the CBO, most of the organizations or social enterprises, we trying to meet the community in person in LGBTIQ events and also meeting. But because of the COVID, we have to think further on how we can continue the activities to support LGBTIQ people. So people using Zoom, people using other virtual tools to reach and meet LGBTIQ people virtually and provide them counseling. We also record the number of cases facing with domestic stigma and discrimination, because like Jay just said that they fought to be at home, and they have to stay with the family or the family member who are conservatives on LGBTIQ issues. So kinds of like meet up with other virtually and speak and sharing about their story is kind of the support for LGBTIQ people. It's quite good. And for Lighthouse, because we are a service providers organization, So during the COVID, we also heard a lot of LGBTIQ people who need to get like kind of HIV testing or other counseling services. So at Lighthouse, we send the HIV self-test kits, condom and lubricants mailed to the LGBTIQ community. So that is a way we trying to sustain the activity during the COVID to support community. For Lighthouse, I think COVID is like bring a different aspect. It's also negative and also positive aspect. About the positive aspect, I think we have to think about what we can do on how we can prepare for the similar crisis like COVID in the future, because we don't know what happens in next few months, or maybe in next year something new comes. So using the technologies, using social medias to outreach, support, provide the services and support for community is a new direction at Lighthouse. So now we develop an apps. We develop an app named Hunt, where we can provide the community the services near them. We also provide them the information on their rights, on law and policy related with LGBTIQ people in Vietnam, also with other health services that they can reach, and also provide the online counseling for the community. So with website, fan page, and the app on smartphone, I think that is really new strategy at Lighthouse.
Wow, that is fantastic. I mean, I don't think even Hong Kong has this app. Okay, now if we need, we know who to call. Perfect. Well, again, we wouldn't be here today without the support of UNDP. So let's turn to Quynh. I mean, as we all know, 2020 is the decade of action, and we should no longer just be talking and actually put our resources together to support some of UNDP's initiatives, which ultimately, empowers the LGBTI, community. So, I mean, do you have any near-term, medium-term plans with what UNDP, even in Vietnam, is planning to do that you can share with us and see where, we can all support?
So in the UNDP at the regional level, we have the a project named Being LGBTI in Asia, and possibly it will be continue in 2020. I would like to share about the cases in UNDP Vietnam, and I would like to answer your question about a story that just happened last year in 2019 in our Youth Collab. So you may know Youth Collab is kind of the regional Asia Pacific scale project to support a young social entrepreneur. And last year we aimed to engage with LGBTI community entrepreneur in Vietnam through Youth Collab. And thanks to the LGBTI community network and including Tung here, so he have a lot in introduce for us a lot of very good and candidate to join the Youth Collab, and they bring the brand new atmosphere into the Youth Collab training. And we found that no barrier, no gap between the young people from LGBTI community or the young people not come from this community. So they laugh. They're very intelligent, humorous, and I just remember one story that's happened in one city that we did this. So among around 40 people to join the training, 3-day training, at the end we have the pitching for the startup. This is a startup competition, right? So there are 2 rounds. One round is the internal round, just the participant and us, the organizer, and some judges. The second round is going to be with the big community, with all the people from startup ecosystem of this city. So the first round, we choose the 4 best team. One of these 4 best team led by the youth LGBTIQ community person. And then they have a very good business model when they produce and sell the healthy drink, which come from the Vietnamese ingredient. And they have the very cute and humorous advertisement, who they have the guy in LGBTI community drinking this healthy drink, and it's so lovely advertisement, and we all think there's potential, and we choose them at the top for best team. But just 1 hour before the final pitching, before the kind of big event, the team come to me and say that they not feel confident to be speak about their startup, their business model among too many people that they don't know. And they somehow said with me that they think that their business model is not too much advanced, or technology stuff like the other. So even we try best to convince them, they still don't want to join. So this is one of the things that one of the situations that let keep me thinking about all the time when we want to do some activities that engage have the inclusive participant from all the marginalized group. So in 2020, our strategy that we want to engage with more and more young people from LGBTI community in Vietnam to our economic and social empowerment event. I hope and I believe that the more chance for them to join this kind of event, the more chance for them to speak out and to show that they have talents and a lot of brilliant idea, is more chance for the society recognize them, and for them recognize themselves and believe in themselves.
Right. I mean, on that note, I think this is why we are lucky to have panels like this where, and I hope when they see this, they see Jay, they see Tung, they see Quynh, and they see Justin, which, by the way, speaking of youth, we're coming to very soon, right? One last thing is, by the way, Quynh, I mean, Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival, again, we have a virtual startup village. If any of these companies and startups want to be featured, please have them connect to us, because we'll put them in the startup village, right? It's a live event that's going on today and tomorrow, and we think it will be great. So Justin, now the young one of the group, I think, right? Let's talk about next generation, right? With so much social justice and equality and demand for opportunity and solidarity, right? How do you see what you do affect other teenagers in the millennial and the Gen Z generations?
Thank you so much for that. I mean, Youth Voices Count recently released a regional report, and it was around how young adolescent and youth are coping with COVID around Asia Pacific. And I think the whole narrative that was going on at the start of COVID-19 was that it is affecting our economic lives and our human rights. That was sort of the narrative that was being shared around, and which was totally true. And I think our report highlighted that quite well. But at this point in time, we are at a period where even here in the Philippines, cases are still increasing, and I don't see it. I'm quite a hopeful person, but I don't see it ending soon, and that is a reality we have to face. And now we have to start adapting to the new normal, and I guess we now have to rethink and reassess what that new normal actually means. And that's where I think a lot of civil society, the private sector, businesses have a huge role to play. And in that role, we should continuously maintain that safe space that a lot of LGBTIQ adolescents and youth need. And one part of our report mentioned that an anonymous respondent said that there is still that need, and young people still crave that safe space, and oftentimes they can't get that at home. A lot of households still do not accept their LGBTIQ children. and the cases of intimate partner violence and domestic violence are still on the rise. So young people are looking for that safe space. Young people crave that safe space, and it's not available to them at this time. That's why a lot of hotlines, in online platforms are instrumental in giving that safe space to young people where we are at right now. And I can speak more about the current political landscape in the Philippines and across Asia, and specifically with the current the recent law that has been implemented in the Philippines, which unfortunately will curtail freedoms of expression and assembly. One thing I'd like to point out is, as LGBTIQ activists, trauma is collectively felt and experienced. We feel and we experience trauma together. And oftentimes, when safety is threatened, it becomes political, it becomes personal. And this is why a lot of a few days ago, 20 LGBTIQ activists were peacefully protesting in one of the cities here in the Philippines, and they were arrested. And yet they were maintaining the social distancing measures. They were ensuring that all health safety measures were in place. Yet they were arrested. And that destroys the years of of work that that LGBTIQ activists have been doing to build our safe spaces, to build our safe cities. And this is where the whole idea of building that culture of inclusion and equality has to be still at the center of our work. And as I pointed out earlier, it is everyone's role: the private sector, civil society, the United Nations, governments. It's all our collective role to fix that problem and maintain that safe space.
I mean, thanks for sharing. Of course, it's, as I said, we are one community. So wherever there are weaknesses in certain countries and jurisdictions, we Asia all feel it. And I completely agree with you on that point, Justin. But end on a happier note, I think we want progress. We want to advance equality. And for me personally, it's all about economic empowerment in some sense, because ultimately we are done asking for equality. It should be ours to begin with. So, just to round it up, right, Jay, if you don't mind, as an LGBT entrepreneur, right, what advice would you give the youth, wanting to make an impactful business on their own, or to contribute to a social enterprise, or just be a fully functioning, contributing member of a society? So let's hear some of your advice, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I think the question should be more like, who is supporting whom? Like, I'm this middle-aged guy who is a little bit out of touch with the world because I'm not on the internet doing as much research. I have like family duties that takes me away from a lot of the sort of like knowing what's going on in the world. But the youth these days, no matter it's the youth in Taiwan or elsewhere, they are intimately connected to what is happening in the world. Whether it's political events like political upheavals or social events, or even like the latest entertainers, whether they're like Lady Gaga or K-pop. So actually, I need to get them to support me in a sense that I need them to really give me an understanding of what is the economy these days, what are the trends these days, and what are the possibilities these days. And so in terms of business, I think the young people and people like me who have a little bit of more experience, it's a great way to sort of like come halfway between and support each other. I mean, I can give a lot of advice on the methodology to do business research, the structuring to put a business plan together, these sort of like negotiation skills that I have acquired over the years that could be very helpful for them if they are, let's say, part of the company and going out there to negotiate contracts or to negotiate productions or to find collaborators or strategic partners or sponsors. And so it's really kind of the other way around, or not the other way around. It's right now it's a great nexus where kind of like the older, more experienced needs to meet with the fresher and creative. And I think a lot of positive explosion will come from that. And I think on the business side, it's definitely that. On the marketing side, like I mentioned, like the youth, the Gen Z especially, are the ones who are familiar with what is happening in social media, all the way down to TikTok, to Instagram, to what have you. And it's incumbent upon me to free up more of my authority and to delegate more to them to sort of figure out how, for example, we should be marketing to other parts of the world, because they're more intimately connected than I am. What I can do is kind of give them the tools or teach them some of the software like Facebook Insight or BuzzSumo or some of the other software that can help them fine-tune their intuition into kind of like a strategy. And then, of course, for us, since we're doing original content, creative productions, we need to rely on a lot of filmmakers and creators, whether it's on the story end or on the sort of like production end or even on the post-production end. And so we really need to rely on like the youth to really tell us what is trending these days, what are potential good storylines, or what are potentially interesting characters that people want to understand and read. And again, what I can do is kind of help them maybe with the script so that it makes makes more sense, or it's smoother, it's more logical. But a lot of the creativity these days is not definitely coming from people like me. It's coming from the youth, and it's not us supporting them. It's actually the other way around, them supporting us, and together finding a way to sort of grow together so the generation gap is decreased, but the sort of knowledge transfer is very mutual, and so that we can really use this collaboration and this sort of coming together of different generations to tack on the enormous challenges of 2020. I mean, it's huge public health challenge, it's a huge economic challenge, it's a huge political challenge, and now is the time more than ever to kind of for us to lean on each other, regardless of your generation.
That's great. Tung, how about you? Any final thoughts on how to empower the next generation?
In Vietnam, most of the LGBTIQ activity is funded by international organizations or funders. So, the situation has changed a lot in terms of the funding landscape, especially because of the COVID. So, because it's affect to the economics and also the strategies of the funders. So the LGBTIQ community in Vietnam, and I think also in over the world, should be aware about how important the domestic resources and also self-finance. So, to think about the business from now, if you have never think about it, I think is quite important. For me, from our experiences, I think this situation also brings some opportunities to think about like how we can mobilize the resources from the LGBTIQ community itself. In Vietnam, we have some cases from a few LGBTIQ organizations that produce some products to sell among the LGBTIQ community. Some organizations who provide the health services for the community through the community clinic, and also like some people they think about very innovative idea like the virtual dating service to bring the LGBTIQ couple together, bring them the opportunity to find the partner, the lover. So those kinds of things, I think it's come from the COVID times. And it's, if you think about it, if the young generation, you are thinking around on how you can sustain your organization, how you can develop your organization. So you can think about how you can use technology and social medias and using ICT to deliver the activities to the community, and also to generate the income for the organization. And also, if you can start with some business idea, there are some organizations can support you, like Youth Collab from UNDP. And at Lighthouse, in this year, we support from COC Netherlands. We have trainings on organizational development and resource mobilization, including business startup for the few LGBTIQ leaders. So I think like those kinds of the platform is really good for young generation to join, and also to learn more about the business and to turn it to the action and practices. So I think it's really, yeah, that is my thoughts.
Thank you. Quynh, how about you? Any last thoughts?
Not the advice, but the few words to share with you. So we as UNDP, we hope that we could become your just organization to work with. And we hope that whenever you see any event hosted by UNDP Vietnam on our communication channel, and you think this is interesting and you want to join this, so please don't hesitate to join. And we promise and we believe that we always try to provide a safe space for everyone to come, to join, and to speak at our event. And for the LGBTI youth, just have the very short sentence: just be yourself, be safe, and the world will adjust.
Thank you. Always be yourself. You know, the whole concept of thinking twice. Last but not least, Justin, I mean, you are so passionate. I wish I had your energy when I was your age. I mean, any last thoughts to mobilize the young generation to achieve a better world for everyone after them?
Um, I guess be open for young people like me. To be open, be bold, never shy away from opportunity, and even mistake. Never shy away from mistake, because in mistake you learn. Um, and this is the same advice we actually gave to Thai two young Thai activists who developed their own anonymous online platform called Prism Chat. I think they were also part of a UNDP collab event. I'm not sure. But they developed this amazing anonymous online platform to support LGBTIQ community members through peer support. It's like a chat platform. We give that same advice to them. Never shy away from opportunities, never shy away from making mistakes, and learn from everyone around you, because there's so much support within and from the community that we have right here.
Right. Thank you. Again, a very, very final thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Tung. Thank you, Quynh. And thank you, Justin, for really making this landmark first ever LGBTI panel at Start Me Up Hong Kong. We greatly look forward to all the leadership that you bring to not only your home country, but to the rest of Asia. And we're very, very much looking forward to having you on stage in person next year in 2021 with us. On that note, as we say, love is love, be safe, and God bless. Take care.